तो क्या किया था हम लोग लास्ट क्लास में? इक्वेशंस निकाले थे। काहे का? अच्छा, 6-7 इक्वेशंस दिखा एक बार लास्ट। अच्छा, ये किए थे। ठीक है, स्टार्ट करें शांतनु। ठीक है, ओके। सो वी नो हाउ टू डील विथ प्योर रोलिंग। ठीक है, प्योर रोलिंग के साथ वी नो हाउ टू डील। उसके लिए इक्वेशंस लिखना, वी नो हाउ टू राइट टॉर्क इक्वेशंस, वी नो हाउ टू राइट फोर्स इक्वेशंस, एंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली वी नो हाउ टू राइट constraint equations and the relationship between the acceleration and alpha. ठीक है, so now let's proceed with our discussion. Okay, so we are still dealing with uh, rotation with translation, and I want to talk a little bit about kinetic energy. All right, so let's start with rotation plus translation. And right now I want to talk about kinetic energy. Okay, so we want to deal, or we want to find out the kinetic energy of an object which is both rotating and translating. Okay, so we have done this in the past. You don't know this, you don't realize this, but we have done this in the past, and we read or we studied something known as the center of mass frame. Okay, did we do that? We did center of mass frame. Okay, so from the center of mass frame, what is the kinetic energy of any body? ये किए थे ना, for a translating, for a purely translating groups of objects. Okay, for a system of particles, the kinetic energy from the center of mass frame, half mu u relative ka square. All right, half mu u relative square, you remember that? Okay, so that is the kinetic energy of the system of particles from the center of mass frame. But then we have to calculate the kinetic energy from the ground frame. तो उसके लिए क्या करते थे? The kinetic energy from the center of mass frame plus the kinetic energy of the center of mass. So we assume that all the mass is concentrated at the center, and that is moving with a velocity which is equal to the velocity of the center of mass. ठीक है? So what is the basic idea? The basic idea is for any system of particles. So when we are dealing with an object which is rotating plus translating, basically we are dealing with group of particles, a system of particles, because it is an extended object. So we are dealing with a system of particles. So my equation or my formula for kinetic energy is not going to change. Kinetic energy still is, what is kinetic energy for an object which is rotating plus translating? It is the kinetic energy from the center of mass frame plus the kinetic energy of the center of mass. So that is the kinetic energy of any body from the ground frame. Okay? Okay. Now the good thing is that when an object is rotating plus translating, if you sit at the center, of mass, what are you going to see? You are going to see pure rotation. Okay? So if an object is both rotating and translating, but you sit at the center of this wheel, you sit at the center of any object, it could be a disc, it could be a ring, it could be a sphere. Okay, you sit at the center, what are you going to observe? You're going to observe that everything is going in perfect circles. Okay, so that becomes the kinetic energy of this object from the center of mass becomes the kinetic energy of a purely rotating body. What is the kinetic energy of a purely rotating